Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode 145 for the week of February 10th, 2014. I am Ryan Higgins, your host this week with the most. Who else is here?
You definitely don't have the most. Brock Sager.
Toby.
And Charlie.
Toby, move your microphone about 6 inches closer. Try that again.
Toby.
There you go. Now we can hear
Charlie.
you. And Charlie. There we go. And I can hear you guys.
Damn it, I didn't get to repeat my intro.
Turn the gain way up here. The ghost with the most, man. All right. What's a random garbage to talk about this week? Let's start talking about some comic book stuff.
Okay.
First, being the prophetic people that we are, not pathetic in Brock's case, but prophetic.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. John Romita Jr. and Geoff Johns are the new creative team on Superman, starting at some undisclosed issue.
Is it on the main Superman title, or is it on Action?
No, I believe Action is still Greg Pak, so just Superman. This has been rumored for a little while, and there was a lot of talk of Geoff Johns being on another book post Forever Evil, because he's now currently only writing Green Lantern, Justice League, after he's left Green Lantern and left Aquaman, and weird rumors of him only being on one or two books a month, because he's obviously really involved with all the movie shows and TV stuff.
Oh, they want him to be.
I mean, he was out on this weekend doing stuff for the iZombie pilot. They cast. You know what? I should talk about this later too. But they cast Jim Gordon for the Gordon Show, and he's all over all this stuff. So his time in the comics is less and less, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But, we had kind of assumed this. There have been a lot of rumor from Bleeding Cool and some other sites that John Romita Jr. may possibly take over. And as someone who, listens to this podcast a lot, you probably know that we are not maybe the biggest fans of John Romita Jr. I liken him to Neil Adams and Frank Miller and John Byrne and a couple of these other guys that are some of the best artists the industry has ever produced. Absolutely groundbreaking. Their runs on their specific titles have been just so influential when it comes to comics. However, their current output is not up to the quality of their previous work. And John Romita Jr., I unfortunately feel falls into this category as well. His art style, I remember on AVX, I mean, we all had a lot of complaints about that book.
Issue 7 improved like 1,000-fold because it was not his art.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'll sell because it's Geoff Johns, but I mean, we got at least one person at this table that's not going to buy the book because it's Romita Jr., right, Brock?
I'm not buying it.
Yeah. So,
when I heard the news, I felt like I had passed go, but didn't get $200.
Well,
like it's mixed. It's like you're like Johns, yes, and then Romita Jr. like
yeah,
no.
It is the definition of mixed emotions because to me, I mean, it is my favorite writer with one of my least favorite current artists. I mean, there are a lot of artists out there that are just sort of like whatever, all right. And Romita Jr. is not a bad artist or a whatever artist, but his style just does not work for modern books. It's like Jim Starlin. He's been doing Stormwatch. He's going to have some new Infinity Gauntlet book coming out, and it's like his style just doesn't. It's not comics anymore. Like I don't want to see this. I mean, maybe he's going to totally change things up. Maybe it's going to be awesome. Maybe it's going to be way different. I'm just not seeing it though.
See, I guess for me, the only thing I really question about this kind of thing is, so what Johns did on Green Lantern is he sort of built up this team around him to sort of improve the brand as a whole between sort of like Tomasi on Green Lantern Corps and all that. Like it seemed like a very sort of tight-knit, everybody on board with Johns' vision of where things were going and everything that was happening. And for some reason, when like I read this news, I didn't see the same sort of correlation. Like I didn't feel like this was Johns sort of saving the franchise as much as saving a single title.
Well, right. We have no idea what the change to the overall Superman title is going to be. Are we going to cancel Superboy and Supergirl and do something new? Or, what is going to happen? Is this going to be the main title? Action becomes kind of just secondary to it and kind of answers it? Or is it going to be just completely left to their own devices, kind of the way they are now? They feel so disconnected.
So,
and there's not much cohesion between the titles.
I know that we had talked about John Romita Jr. when Cap was renumbered.
Oh,
with
yeah.
all new, and
Yeah.
and the inker on that book did at least an amazing job of making it somewhat viewable.
I believe it's Klaus Janson, and that's who's inking this.
So I mean,
is it Klaus Janson?
I mean, it's his inking style on the book really kind of made it bearable to look at. But as you read through those books, I mean, I didn't get too far into the series, but you could tell things were starting to get rushed, by issue 2 and even issue 1, the end of issue 1, like the inking kind of just fell off. Whereas,
yeah, it's Klaus Janson. So I believe he's also doing this. He's been his inker pretty regularly. And funny because Frank Miller, Klaus Janson inked a lot of his stuff back in the day too. So, I mean, it is not the worst, but it's just not what I want. I just have been so disappointed with his art in recent years, and it just doesn't have that modern feel that the new 52 titles should have. This is the same problem with Stormwatch, and this is the same problem I've had with a few other titles where it's like this, Hawk and Dove with Liefeld. It's like you guys are trying to do something new, but just the same people.
See, to me, like the real news here is Johns is going to be writing Superman, which I'm all sort of for, but I do find it kind of weird in this day and age that a lot of this was sort of propped up in spite of the fan feedback we seem to be getting for like these particular artists. I mean, they made a big deal about not so much that Johns was going to be writing the book, but the fact that Romita Jr. was going to be doing a DC book with Johns, and like it was very, very highlighted where I was kind of like, well, okay.
I don't think most people care about Romita Jr. Yeah. I don't think he sells books. I don't think AVX would have sold any better or worse without him on it. It possibly could have sold better. I don't know.
And that's why I'm sort of surprised by the general prop up of that.
The push for him is because he's been Marvel exclusive for like 40 years, right? I mean, that is Romita Jr., except for some Image titles and some independent stuff he's done once or twice. He's never worked for DC before. So that is the push. However, it's like when they got Mark Bagley over at DC. Who cares? I love Mark Bagley, but Beyond Prime at this point, it's not, no one cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Now, if they were to suddenly say like, hey, we got Rick Remender and Rick Remender and God, I don't even know like who's some big only Marvel artist right now. And like John Cassaday, I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to pick a name. I mean, he's done stuff for DC before, but you know what I mean. I'm just Ryan Stegman, perfect example. Yeah. If they're like, we got Rick Remender and Ryan Stegman to DC, okay, then I would pay attention to that because these are two like Marvel almost exclusive guys, I mean, except for some of Remender's indie work. But like these are Marvel guys.
Yeah,
Romita Jr. again is a Marvel guy, through and through, but well past.
Well, but as you said, he's a Marvel guy through and through that isn't necessarily selling the Marvel books very well anymore. So it sort of seems pointless to sort of prop him up at DC as a big deal when I kind of feel like it's more of I'm not getting enough work over here, so now I'll go over here.
Yeah, I mean, when Capullo came over to Batman, I mean, that's a big steal because he'd been working for Image for so long. But people didn't know how, a lot of people didn't know how they were going to react to Greg Capullo's art on Batman, and a lot of people were kind of turned off by it at first. But at this point, it's pretty much gone. Yeah. I think people really like him. Romita Jr., again, is kind of a similar get, but with Capullo, he's to an audience that is like, holy shit, this guy's really good, and like kind of rediscovering him. Because he's been out of the game out of the main kind of stream light for so long. Romita Jr. is still putting out books on a regular basis, and it's just not. Yeah. And I hate to talk shit about this type of thing, but I was so excited for Johns, but the Romita Jr. aspect is like, okay, well, it's kind of still goofy, cartoony art that isn't. I don't think will serve the book.
I think his art. I mean, like you said, Byrne and Miller and Adams and stuff. It's their art doesn't fit the modern comic book, and
Right.
it's if there was a book out there that Romita Jr. could draw and it be successful at, I don't know who that would be right now, because he doesn't really fit anybody. Like it's like with the changeover to with Patrick Zurcher on Flash, like his art fit Flash. Like I was like, cool. The transition for me was from Maniple to now, even with that fill-in issue, I've enjoyed the art style. But if you went and threw Romita Jr. on there, I'd be like, does it really work?
If you took Romita Jr. and put him on put him on Superman post John Byrne, so 1989, 1990 or whatever, that would have been the biggest deal in comics. Now, it's just kind of like, well, whatever.
Who do you think they should have put on there?
I don't know.
Because
I have no idea.
It's funny. We're talking about the artist and how like this, you have a great writer, but then you bring this artist that's kind of and I harken back to the Harley Quinn issue 0, where the whole issue is arguing about what type of artist we should put on this book, and it was hilarious to see that argument going on in Harley Quinn, but it's not actually applied, because now it's like, well, you're just putting Romita Jr. on there because it's the big name kind of thing for Harley Quinn. In that book, they talked about just putting the big name on there is going to sell it. So
yeah, I mean, I think you need some big kind of flashy superhero artist, but that still has a sort of modern sensibility. And someone like Ryan Stegman, or I'm looking at kind of the Marvel wall here. To see
what about Steve McNiven?
If he could do it in time.
Well, yeah, but
McNiven's slow as hell. But sure, I'd love to see McNiven work for DC, but he's slow as hell.
Yeah.
I
I think we talked about this before. To me, I think DC and Marvel need to kind of get that house style.
Ooh, Stuart Eminem. Oh, steal him from X-Men. Put him on Superman.
They need to kind of get that house style, kind of those artists that can.
Well, it comes back to the problem again. I mean, we talked about this before. They haven't produced besides Snyder, the next Snyder.
Yeah,
it's Snyder and that's it, right? Who else?
Yeah, no, you're totally right.
Right?
Did we talk about Mike Martz last week?
No.
Leaving? Did we talk about this last week?
Maybe. Did we?
Well, I wasn't here last week. So
Mike
don't ask
Martz,
me.
The Batman editor.
Mike Martz,
Yeah, I think we
the
talked
Batman
That was pretty
editor.
huge.
Yeah, left.
No, we did, because we're talking about the Office moves, and that's one of the guys that wanted to stay in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, he went over. He went back to Marvel. But that's exactly right.
Yeah.
We don't have another.
Yeah, I mean, there's no. I mean, was it 10 years? Is it 10 years already? We have Michael Turner, right? A huge star. Not Sylvester, not Jim Lee, but Michael Turner, right? Where's the new guy? I mean, there's.
Yeah, we haven't had a push.
Yeah, well, I don't even want to push.
pushing a lot.
Honestly, I hate pushes because it's almost like I'm forcing you to like this, and I hate that. But I like to have a new Snyder or a new Michael Turner or something new come up like that. I'm waiting for that, and it seems like.
I mean, I think there's been a few.
Advertising and movie and TVs are taking everything good away.
There's been a few, but they haven't been on the level of a Turner or a Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, guys like Andre Sorrentino doing Green Arrow is incredible, and that guy will work in comics forever, hopefully, because he's got an amazing style. But it's not that sort of pop Flash style that guys like Turner have, which I think you do need in comics. Jim Lee's still great, but it's not what it was.
That's the Geoff Johns problem. He has other stuff he needs to take care of.
Right. Comics is not his focus these days. So, I mean, you do have some like, John Layman. He's been doing some really good stuff. Obviously, guys like, what's his face? Forget the guy doing Green Arrow. Until I just blanked on his name.
Like, if they launch Superman.
Yeah, Jeff Lemire.
If they launch Superman with Geoff Johns and Turner, or Geoff Johns and Jim Lee or something, it would have been huge.
I mean, I want to go back to the Jim Lee well again and again and again.
He's not putting books out, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I know.
Well, I guess the point I was trying to make before is if they had specifically announced that Johns was moving his entire Green Lantern team to take over the Superman franchise, I would have been...
Yeah.
Oh, well, why not Ivan Rice? Or why not... who the hell's...
Rice is pretty good.
He is really good.
He could do a really nice Superman, too.
Ivan Rice or... who's the other guy that did a lot of that Green Lantern work with him? Doug Monkey. Any of those guys.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be perfect.
That would have... You know what? Having Monkey on like Superman and Rice on Action... I think would have been really good, and then taking Tomasi and throwing him on whatever book Johns wasn't doing.
Yeah.
As I said, if they had moved like that, would have been
That would have been
That would have got me excited.
Yeah.
That would have been
now
news.
you're making me wish this happened, Charlie. Well, because Marvel kind of did that when they were like X-Men and Avengers teams. You're switching. If they were just like Green Lantern and Superman teams, you're switching. Yeah. So, well, we'll see what happens as we go on. I mean, I'm so excited for it, but
I'm excited to read it, not look at it.
We'll see what happens with the art. Anyone that's been following this podcast knows that we are a fan of a lot of the media that comes out of comic books, all these movies and TV shows that are happening. And we have, upcoming, we have pilots for Gotham and iZombie from DC in the works. Flash is currently being filmed, or maybe they're about to start filming it. They film it soon.
Yeah.
We already have Arrow, which has been on television. 2 new shows have been officially announced as in development. AMC finally is going to start working on Preacher, the Garth Ennis, Steve Dillon masterpiece from the mid to late 90s. And it seems like Seth Rogen kind of running, like show running it, or like kind of producing it. I'm not sure. Like that seems kind of random, but okay. I mean,
I was a little surprised by that one.
Yeah,
He might be a big fan.
I think that I read that he's a big fan of the work, and he's a big fan of keeping it true to what it is.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're necessarily going to get it. It's not going to be Rogan. Yeah, it's not going to be Rogan, but
Preacher is funny.
It's funny.
I mean, Preacher has some hilarious parts.
I just don't think Rogan is going to be in it.
Well, actually, there is a comment from Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. It says, "This is amazing. We've tried for 7 years to work on Preacher, and we're so psyched AMC is finally letting us. It is our favorite comic of all time, and we're going to do everything we can to do it right. Humper-doo." So he knows Preacher. Humper-dinky-doo.
Well, I read something where Ennis said that he likes Rogan's view of it. Him and Dylan both have talked and stuff, and I mean, Preacher's been in possible development hell for decades.
Kevin Smith was working on the movie 15 years ago. Yeah, and this thing's been working forever. And this is always my fear. This Sandman movie that keeps getting worked on.
Just TV show.
Right. Preacher, I mean, you take Preacher and you take Breaking Bad, and and again, one of the producers on Breaking Bad is working on this. This is the format that this show needs to take, because Preacher is a linear story. It has beginning, middle, and end. It takes place over a not too long of a time period. There is sort of like some jumps in the middle, but it's like you kind of have the beginning takes place.
You could do it in 5 to 7 seasons.
No, but I'm talking about physical time.
Yeah, physical time. It's not too long. No.
Yeah. In the show,
even had a few like mini-series stuff thrown in there, which would
fill in
make
episodes,
fill-in episodes or TV movies,
specials,
web shorts.
Yeah. Sure, yeah, an Our Space special. So, very, very
Bend
excited.
over Mitchell. That's how they're going to do it.
Very excited if this happens. Also, very excited to see the run of Preacher we got in today. Is going for about 10 times what it was going for a few years ago. So, Walking Dead, watch out! Preacher's coming for you.
So you're going to sit on that to see if the TV show actually...
No, he put them up.
I put one up for $150, man. That book was like a $30, $40 book forever, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, this tripled. So,
well, I was just wondering if you're going to do the speculation thing of if the show actually goes fully into production.
No, because Preacher actually had a pretty decent-sized print run. Yeah. So it's not like Walking Dead where they made like literally a couple thousand of them.
I mean, graded copies of one go for what, $1,000?
Yeah, like they were getting close to $800 or $1,000, so which is just retarded. Also,
you're going to talk
sci-fi.
about what I think you're going to talk about?
Sci-fi. So this is DC's plan, like one show on Fox, a show on ABC, CBS, NBC. We have a couple on CW, one thing on AMC now, and then Sci-Fi is, besides the long-rumored Booster Gold series, which we haven't heard anything about recently, some of the people behind Mad Men and Gravity, some of the producers, are working on a TV adaptations of one of Brock's favorite comics of all time, DMZ by Brian Wood. It's the Vertigo title.
I was just going to say, this is one of the things I really like about sort of like the Preacher announcement and the DMZ announcement is having those on different networks.
Yeah.
It doesn't hit any kind of missed opportunities or anything because like I'm very excited for the Flash being on the same network as Arrow because it leads that
came from
greater universe.
there was a statement today by some of the guys behind Arrow and Flash that said even if the pilot doesn't get picked up for whatever reason, they're keeping the actor around, which means they'll have him on on Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Green Lantern. Jesus,
what, you're already playing out the third show?
I'm already Ryan Reynolds can come
CW would do a much better job on Green Lantern.
Green Lantern show. They can bring him and have him on Arrow instead. So if the pilot doesn't get picked up for whatever reason, but why wouldn't the pilot get picked up? I mean, if it's the people behind Arrow is one of the most successful CW shows of all time. So why wouldn't they?
And the nice thing about it is like especially with the Gotham show that they're doing on Fox, they're doing it in a different time, so it's slightly offset, so that they don't necessarily, they can stick with maintaining canon a little bit, but it's not stuck to like the Arrow's canon or whatever, or like you can have like the doll maker in Arrow, but it's an earlier doll maker in Gotham. Yeah. So
if you want to
kind of flow back and forth. But DMZ on oh man. Oh yeah, so good. I read 6 trades in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I never read DMZ.
Hardcover very soon.
No, it's out. The first one's out. Don't touch it. It's mine. I'm getting it this week.
Here's my hopefully I will get a chance to
burn Charlie down. Nice.
Yeah, I do need to read that. That's one of the Vertigo books I kind of missed my first time around. So
I think especially with like kind of the political air in America right now, this is a good time to kind of bring this show forward because
for people that haven't read Preacher or DMZ, quick synopsis: DMZ is about a future New York City that's been kind of torn asunder, and it is now literally a DMZ, a demilitarized zone.
America's gone through a Second World War, and it's come to a head in Manhattan, and Manhattan has become the demilitarized zone. So, and it follows a photographer who becomes a photojournalist / journalist who went in to help take pictures of what was going on, but started to become part of what was happening and stuff like that. But it's a really, really strong title by Brian Wood, and one of my favorites from Vertigo. So
Preacher is about a preacher named Jesse Custer who gets the power of the voice of God and can basically command anyone to do anything. And he is very angry with God and decides to go on a mission to find him and yell at him a bunch. Very excited for both of these. As well as go ahead.
Yes, I was agreeing.
I don't know if any of you guys watched either of these, but we'll talk about Gotham, which has officially been cast for James Gordon, who's going to be the main character in the show. Actor named Ben McKenzie, who was in Southland and The O.C. I've not seen either of those, so I don't know if he's a good actor, but hopefully he is.
His look from what I saw that article, it looks like a young Jim Gordon.
Yeah, he looks good. So, obviously, when DC started up this thing a few years ago, their whole like DC Entertainment, we were kind of like, okay, well, what are they going to do? Man, if even half of the things that are in production come out, like we're going to get a whole crap load of DC TV shows and movies in the next, before the end of this decade, basically in the next 5 or 6 years. Well, this is just going to be a flood of them.
Well, and it's also, a great time for these shows because there's a lot of good shows that have been ended lately. Like Burn Notice ended, Dexter ended. Like you have a lot of shows that Breaking Bad ended. Like a lot of these shows, Mad Men's ending, about to end. So it's a good time for these shows to be made and come out because they can take that spot.
Can I also say R.I.P. Psych? We just heard 5 more episodes. We love you, Psych. Sorry, pour 40 out. Psych. Oh man, Psych. So can I just say how good Psych is?
You want to Psych out?
If you've never watched Psych, it's on USA. I love Psych so much.
I've seen the first 2 seasons. I've enjoyed it.
Okay.
I do not recommend marathoning it because you will fall asleep. It's a good show, but they stick to the formula so well in that show.
Like Burn Notice, early seasons of Burn Notice, very formulaic, but one of the funniest shows I've seen.
No, I enjoyed 2 seasons. I've had so much else to watch that I haven't been able to go back.
It is. In all these shows that are dark and grim and depressing and kind of like Psych is this sort of, but it's not a comedy. I mean, it is comedic, but it is like kind of like a comedy.
It's quirky.
It's quirky is more. It's not a straight comedy. It makes me laugh. It's not a sitcom, right? I mean, it is a funny drama, and I really like it.
And it's really going to go bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's had 8 seasons now or something. I mean,
this is the 8th season.
Yeah.
One last little bit of news here before I know Toby and Charlie want to talk about a few things they've seen and read recently. But this is going to be me ranting for a second here. I believe
he doesn't rant very often.
I believe this is Saturday. On Bleeding Cool, they posted an interesting article from Tumblr of Anthony Johnson, who works on an image book called Umbral. Mm-hmm. This is going to get a little retailer nerdy here, so stick with me for a second here.
Hey, if we had a comment,
Charlie's
section,
reading, Toby's on his iPhone, so you guys can just check out here for a few.
If we had a little comment section, you could actually tell them what point to jump to.
Yeah. So in this, he kind of comes out and he's frustrated with his orders, I'm assuming, because he says for number 1 of Umbral, which is this book he released a couple months ago, 70% of the orders came from less than 30% of the stores that ordered it, right? So
like Mile High ordered,
a small number of accounts, or a small number of accounts ordered a very large majority of it. If you go up, that's 10 copies or more. All right. If you go up to 20 copies or more, only 10% of the stores that actually ordered this book ordered it. Now, I say that because many stores don't even order books from Image.
Yeah.
Many stores, I should say many. There are a number of stores that only order like Marvel and DC, and that's it. So, more than 70% of Diamond Counts did not even order 10 copies of a brand new Image number 1. It's probably closer to 80 or 90% didn't order more than 10 if you count in the stores that didn't order it. He seems rather frustrated by this,
because he didn't make his money on the number 1.
Well, I mean, it says the reaction was like, wow, why aren't stores ordering this book? I heard from people it's pretty good, all right? So I was on Twitter and responding to this and kind of want to give a little brief summary of it here. What we personally did at the store with Umbral was, it's a comic creator I don't really know. It's an artist I don't know. It's an Image number 1. That's nice. But you get a Walking Dead once every decade. So was Umbral the next Walking Dead? Probably not. But, I ordered my kind of standard base 5 copies. I'll order 5 copies of most Image number 1s. So we ordered 5 copies. We sold 5 copies. Okay, that's good. I ordered 5 copies of number 2. By this point...
Wait. Did you try and reorder number 1?
No, I did not.
Okay.
By this point, we had 1 subscriber to it. I sold 1 copy of number 2.
To the subscriber.
Mm-hmm. The 4 copies of number 2 were still sitting on my shelf. After a week or so passed, did not sell another single copy of it. I to this day have not sold another copy, so that's and more showing exactly what happens here. But I cut my order at number 3 to 1 copy, to the 1 subscriber, of which I now have sold. So I have sold out. This book is now on my... I will not order shelf copies for this book because... Sold a couple copies number 1, but apparently people didn't like it. Didn't sell any number 2s, except for the 1. So there you go, right?
And nobody's talking about the book or asking about the book? Or
there's no buzz behind it. It's like, here's the problem. This is most comics, right? Yeah. This is how most comics sell. There are a couple Marvel and DC books I do not order for the shelf. We sell 16 copies of Larfleeze to subscribers. I am now stocking 0 shelf copies. We do not sell a shelf copy of Larfleeze. I sell 16 to subscribers, right? That's a significant amount compared to 0 shelf copies.
There's no point for you to order anymore because they're just going to sit.
Right. So this was sort of the basis for my discussion on Twitter was, it's nice that there are some very successful independent books out there these days. There are also a lot of failure Marvel and DC comics. I mean, we don't live in this world where every book is guaranteed to sell 10, 20, 30 copies. I mean, the Movement and Green Team, I get 1 copy for the 1 subscriber that gets them. All right. I mean, there's a handful of Marvel books by the end, the end of their runs. We're a little bit different now because Marvel's rebooted a bunch of their stuff, so people will want to try a couple of them.
What was it? Wolverine was going down to...
Wolverine, I seriously stocked like 2 copies for the shelf. Yeah, like Wolverine Max, Savage Wolverine, I had stopped getting. We only had shelf copies because someone dropped it. I think like Venom, I had like one copy for the shelf. All those Marvel Knights miniseries, I cut to 0 or sub only. Superior Carnage, I think I had like 1 or 2 on the shelf. Marvel AI I order 3 copies of and don't sell out of. Avengers Arena, I was only getting a copy or 2. Avengers Assemble, I was only getting a copy or 2. Like, there's Uncanny X-Force, I could not cut that book faster. I was selling less and less. Iron Man's another perfect example. I have like 8 subscribers and I sell like 3 copies off the shelf. This is Iron Man, the multi-billion-dollar movie blockbuster Iron Man. I sell 12 copies of the comic. Or I don't sell 12 copies. I sell like 11 or 10. Like, how does this happen? So there are books. Saga sells fantastic. Batman, all new X-Men. I mean, there are books that sell amazing.
Okay. Saga's a great example. But before it even came out, right? Saga #1 was penned. It was Brian K. Vaughan's new thing.
He's got a big name,
right? It was Fiona Staples, who's known in a certain art circle, but
people know who she is. Yeah, sure.
But they also pumped their book by saying, we're giving you a virtually double the sized book for $2.99.
Right. Like, well, there's promotion behind it. There's push behind it. Yeah. No, I mean, not every single creator has the ability to push the way just a name like Brian K. Vaughan does. But, this is what happens in comic books, is that,
And you're also part of your rant on Twitter was that, you're going through the previews magazine, which
it's huge.
It's huge. It's the size of Walking Dead,
400 or 500 pages
or
a month.
Watchmen and 2 Saga trades.
Yeah. I mean, it's gigantic, right?
And
every month,
10 to 15 items on the independent comic book pages.
Yeah, most of which I just skip over. I mean,
and
a lot
some of them
books
don't even have artwork.
Right, a lot of the books these days, especially for the indie stuff. But again, if I sell it, I stock it. If I don't, I don't. I am willing to try generally a handful of copies of most #1s. But if creators aren't getting their customers into stores to buy the stuff, it's not going to sell.
Well, you've even cut down on your Marvel #1 reorders. I mean, or initial orders. You're not ordering tons of copies of.
I'm not ordering tons of copies of anything because I mean, what we've kind of seen is that there's just a lot of, there was for quite a long time. We have a lot of people coming in a week after, 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after, picking up lots of books. Now it still happens, but I've seen a bit of a dry up of this post kind of the New 52 hype, post the Marvel Now hype. We're kind of into the second launch of Marvel Now, and the numbers are okay, but I mean nothing like I ordered for the Marvel Now numbers, half, a quarter. The New 52 books are, most of them are just dropping like flies. I mean, I bring Red Hood up, I bring it up all the time, but like we went from 40 copies to 12 copies in like 3 issues.
Well, didn't you have like 4 people unsub from Green Lantern in like less than a week?
Try like every day. Yeah. Like my Green Lantern numbers are about half of what they were when John's it took 5 or 6 issues, but it's about half now of what it was for John's last issue.
So one thing I do kind of want to bring up here, just because, yes, there are plenty of comics I absolutely adore that got cut the same way, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that you don't support the books when they come out in trade, like Skull Kickers and that kind of stuff, when there's sort of the sustainability's already been there and they start putting out trades. Like, yeah, you don't stock Skull Kickers for the shelf, but you always have the trades in stock.
Yeah, I'll get them. But, if we're looking on trade 4, trade 5, and I haven't sold trade 1 or 2, I'm probably not. But if I haven't sold a single copy, I'll probably not going to stock them. But, again, I'll grab them, especially if they're a nice hardcover. These are nice. And if, most of them sell. Like Marvel with their trades are coming out so quickly now because of the Marvel Now stuff, because of the double shipping. I mean, I've looked at trade sales even for the first 2, 3, 4 volumes of some of these books, and like Superior Spider-Man, again, one of our best-selling Marvel books, is also one of our best-selling Marvel trades. I sell a bunch of those, so obviously I'll keep ordering those. But like, hate to pull Cable and X-Force out, but it's just the one I happen to remember off the top of my head. I didn't sell the first couple trades, so like trade 4 or 5 or whatever the newest ones are, I'm not going to order the rest because it's like, well, I didn't sell the first couple, I'm not going to order anymore.
Well, that's okay. It's being relaunched as just
right. And trades. I mean, trade sales are different from comic sales, but still, it's the same principle. So, my advice to any independent creator out there is, it's tough. Just because you have an image #1 doesn't mean anything. You're not Brian K. Vaughan and you're not Robert Kirkman.
You're not Scott Snyder.
You got to remember, how many copies did Walking Dead #1 sell? About 4,000 or 5,000 copies, maybe. The store got 2 copies of Walking Dead. Like, some perspective. Yeah. Maybe Umbrella will get picked up and become a movie, and people are going to be scrambling for those back issues. Maybe I'll have 4 copies in my dollar bin forever. I don't know, of #2. This is just the way this industry works. And most comic books, the very, very vast majority, be it Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, Oni, whatever, the books, nobody cares 6 months or a year down the road. Your books are forgotten and gone because there's another 1,000 books on the shelf next month. That's just the way the industry is. I'm sorry, I hate it. But
you said it yourself. It's like with these new books that are coming out, before FOC, give the retailer something.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Give us, we don't need an actual, this is what it's going to look like on the shelf. We can get a black and white reading copy, whatever, but give us something so that we see what the whole product is before we're placing that.
If you have a
order.
#1 book and you're coming out and you're kind of not a real known creator, provide stores with copies, be it a full copy, be it a PDF, something before the final order cutoff. If you work from DC, or I'm sorry, if you work for Image or Dark Horse or something, you can or Oni. Almost all the big guys have FOC now. You can contact them and say, "Hey, when's FOC for my comic? I need." If Image says we don't want you sending out, or if Dark Horse says we don't want you sending out full copies of #1 to retailers because it's going to get leaked or whatever, say, "Too bad. I need to sell my book. They need to read it." Because if you send me a comic and I flip through it and it looks pretty decent and it's going to stick in my head when I go to order it. If it's just another book and a thing but nobody knows, characters no one knows, and I have no pre-orders for it, no customers asking for it, what do you want me to do? If it blows up to be something big, cool. That's what trade paperbacks and second prints are for. Manifest Destiny from Image is another perfect example. No hype. No, I don't know anything about it. No one cared. I ordered 5 copies, sold out. Ordered 5 of 2, sold out. Ordered 5 of 3, sold out. All of a sudden, people are adding it subs, second, third, fourth prints, and that gets me to pay attention.
I picked it up, right, and read it, and I was like, "Holy shit, I like this!" And so I was talking about it more. The word was getting around. Like I give it as a recommendation to people.
Sure,
but it's one of those things. If we had something ahead of time about that, like if you had something, or you said, "Here, Charlie, read this," or "Here, Brock, Toby, read this," right? Check this out and let me know what you think.
By the time a book comes in on Tuesday or Wednesday and I read it, or let's say I read it over the weekend, it's already sold out. It's already gone.
Yeah.
So get those orders or get those full copy review copies or preview copies to retailers before FOC. I cannot stress that enough. Toby, you've been awfully quiet this podcast. You actually read some comic books, unlike myself and Brock.
I read some.
Shut up. I actually read a bunch the other night. I'm like in the 17s at DC, but I did read a bunch.
So next month you'll be a year behind officially.
I'm in the 18s. I'm already caught up. I'm only 11 months behind on a bunch of my books. Yeah, man. I should get some of those books.
You know what? You should just take take a week or two off of the store and just barricade yourself.
I read through 40 books the other day. It was great.
You just barricade yourself in a room and just read.
Well, my girlfriend's parents were in town and they were watching Breaking Bad. So I was like, I've already seen this. And I just sat in the bedroom and read 30 or 40 comics or something. It was pretty great. Yeah, I finally had some time to catch up. But Toby, you read some books and you watched some shows.
Yes.
You and Charlie both.
Probably the same books and shows.
Yeah. Charlie's bored with this podcast. He's reading comics again. So
he's reading Miracle Man #2.
Put that shit away. No, actually, I found out. I didn't realize Miracle Man #2, actually, they did reprint that missing story that didn't get reprinted the first time around. So if I do my binding of the Eclipse stuff, I'm going to have to steal that story out of #2. There's a story that didn't get printed in the Eclipse issues, which Marvel did reprint.
The fear of that they changed stuff with coloring and stuff, did that actually happen now? Or
Oh, yeah. I hate it. I hate it. I hate the style.
It's not bad for a modernizing of it, but I think the problem is because they're integrating it with color, old stuff, and black and white stuff. It feels really out of place.
So what happened, I don't remember if we talked about this, was the original Miracle Man was Marvel Man. It was printed in black and white, right?
Yeah.
When Eclipse released it as Miracle Man, they colored it. It's got that janky-ass 80s coloring, but I love it, right?
Okay.
When Marvel reissued it, they're not reissuing the Miracle Man they're going back to the Marvel Man black and white originals from Warrior Magazine and coloring them and relettering them from that original material. So it's not like they're taking the colors out and recoloring it. They're just putting a modern coloring on this book, but it just doesn't have that same.
See, as somebody who's never read the other stuff, perfectly passable to me.
Yeah, it's same here.
It just doesn't have that. But to me, I'm like, it is Star Wars and Star Wars Special Edition. It's like, this isn't what it looked like. This is the thing I've read 20 times.
See, we haven't read it in that fashion because it wasn't. It's been so hard and unavailable to get.
I know.
So for us, it's it's like we're the generation that watched Star Wars.
Yeah.
The special editions, not that.
Of course, Han Solo shot. Of course, Greedo shot. Like, what? Of course, you're talking about. I'm gonna slap you, kids. Okay, go ahead. Talk about some books.
Well, Charlie, you're the master.
Oh, I'm the master now.
Yeah, well, you're the one that reads.
Okay.
He's a Doctor Who villain.
Do people forget I read? I mean, seriously.
No, they read some specific books they wanted.
You just automatically hate a Marvel.
They read some specific books that they wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Toby did.
So what books did you read that you want to talk about?
I only did 2. I did Marvel and I did Punisher.
Yeah.
And Punisher I was okay with. It's basically just not a Punisher story in L.A. I felt the Rucka one was a lot stronger. I wish we could just keep going on that one. I thought nothing new came to the table. Now, on the other hand said, like Charlie, I think we talked about it briefly yesterday, it does read like Punisher. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to read a Punisher book, this is Punisher.
Yeah.
I just feel there's nothing new to it.
Well, to me, the problem is I immediately compare it to the Rucka stuff, which I adored.
Yes.
And it's the same way where realistically, whoever took over after Johns on Green Lantern was going to be put through the microscope. And while I still say that book is horrible in its own rights to the point where, like, I hate a lot of what they're doing in it.
It's even more horrible because it was so awesome before.
This isn't that way with Punisher. This is just, when I kind of compare it directly to the Rucka Punisher stuff, that stuff I adored. And it's the same thing with, like, when Garth Ennis was doing it way back when. I adore all that stuff. So I kind of have these really high tentpole sort of Punishers to compare it to, and right now it's just a very good passable Punisher story. The writer on it, Edmondson,
Nathan Edmondson,
I think. He's putting out some great books right now with the Black Widow and now with Punisher, and again, I have no problem with the Punisher book. It was a good book. It just made me want to go back and read the Rucka stuff.
Yeah. No, and it's possible it's a setup for something great to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it could just be a slow starter.
Yeah. Now, I didn't get a chance to read Punisher yet because we didn't have enough copies to read. But, I mean, you're going to get some more in, so I'll jump on that one. But I haven't actually read the Rucka stuff or the Ennis stuff yet because I just...
The Rucka is my favorite.
It's one of those things where there's a lot of it, and the trades are just kind of...
Well, there's not that much of the Rucka stuff. It's only like 21 issues.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Ennis stuff. I was big on Steve Dillon's art. Yeah. I read it. It was cool. It was violent, a little over the top. A lot of people liked it. That was cool. Whatever.
The Punisher punches a bear. The greatest scene.
See, you know, Ryan Higgins could be excited. That's all right. But when Rocket came around with the Boogeyman Punisher, where he barely talked and, you know, it's mainly narrated by those 2 detectives, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. This is it. This is the Punisher.
The Rucka Punisher was amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, this might be a more classic style Punisher, and there might be a cooler setup. And as we go, you know, there are some people are hunting him supposedly. So, cool. Yeah.
And then Miss Marvel.
Yeah, Miss Marvel. So I kind of made it a point to read it when it came out, just because I figure a lot of people are going to bitch and moan about it, because some people have bitched and moaned about it beforehand. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna check this out because I'm kind of curious, and I didn't dislike the book. I didn't like the book. I didn't dislike it either. I mean, I kind of dug the art for sure. I love the art. The book when I read the book, it didn't read like a Marvel book, to be honest with you. I kind of look at it as almost like an independent Image book. I almost feel like it's written for teenagers, maybe. I mean, it has more that feel. It has kind of Runaways kind of feel to it. You know, if it's offensive, guess I didn't see where. I was kind of whatever on it. I mean, I just don't know the Muslim culture at all. So I was reading it, just going, okay, cool, all right. The Caucasian characters, I understand. There's those kind of people out there, and if that was offensive to Caucasian people, sorry, I'm sure there's good people too.
Wait, there's racist Caucasian people?
Yeah, I mean, this is a new concept, right?
What?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, they were written fairly, I mean, legit. I mean, the way they sounded, I was like, I could see that, like in a TV show and stuff, like Mean Girls style kind of thing. I never seen Mean Girls, so I don't know why I'm talking about that.
Because you've seen way too many Vampire Academy commercials lately?
Maybe, whatever. I don't know. I don't know what that is either. But anyways, the art I actually thought the art was really good, and I like the girl she's a Avengers fan, so I kind of like that she's really excited about them. Charlie pointed out that he didn't like that the story kind of ends where you think it would get interesting.
Well, my thing is so you already kind of have a push behind a lot of this stuff with the Marvel Point One, and these days your sort of issue ones are really where you really have to hook people, give people enough of the story that they know for sure they want to come back from number 2, especially given the current prices.
No.
I don't feel like this issue did that. Like, I don't really have a clear idea of
it was a really slow story.
This is the sort of personality of where this book is going to go or whatnot. I don't know if it's going to be very much like the Nova book, which is really easy to compare to just because same sort of young kid gets powers.
Now, your point was interesting last night. You said this would be cooler if the end was at the beginning of the book, and we could kind of fill in the holes as we go. And, after some thinking about it, honestly, I kind of agree on that one. What else I want to say? This book could have been any book, though. I mean, if you take the Marvel characters out of this book, this could be a total just indie kind of cool book, and nobody would have said anything about it. I do see why they maybe launched as a number 1, because if this was like in another storyline, I don't know how well that would have worked. So I don't mind it to be number 1, to be honest with you. I didn't quite care for how she turned into Miss Marvel. It just kind of happens.
Well, she's a Inhuman, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah,
she doesn't know it yet?
The Terrigen, the myths that were all coming out is what happened in Infinity that sparked all those powers in people, which is why she wakes up in the cocoon and stuff to break out of it. So.
Okay. I missed all.
Well, that's because they didn't
explain any of that.
Any of it.
Yeah, because I had no idea. I thought the gods just gave her the powers. It's almost like I'm going to pray to God and I'm going to wake up and got superpowers. Look at that.
You know what the deal with the Inhumans now in the Marvel Universe, right?
It's like another mutant section, isn't it?
They are doing this 100% because they don't have the X-Men movie rights, right? They are going to be Marvel Cinematic Universe's mutants. Why 100%?
Yeah,
this is the reasoning.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That's too bad that they're doing that, though. That makes sense.
Well, it's an Inhumans book, so I'm sure it'll last, 6 issues and get canceled. Not Miss Marvel. I mean, that Inhuman book coming up.
Yeah.
Joe Mad, he'll do 2.
I'll buy those 2.
At least I didn't have a chance to read it. We actually sold out. I mean, like most Marvel number 1s, not by a major creative team and not featuring a major character, I ordered pretty lightly on this, even with the controversy. I had no idea if people were actually going to pick it up or not. Whether by accident or not, I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure it was, but Diamond actually double shipped our order, so we got twice as many as I would have normally ordered. We actually sold out by like early weekend, so again, not a ton of copies, but I had a handful of people coming in. I made a joke tweet halfway through Wednesday that this book was selling very well to its target audience of middle-aged straight white men. However, as the week progressed and into the weekend, there were fairly non-atypical comic fans coming in to pick up this title. So there was clearly some outreach there, which is very good to see. And I do appreciate how many people will be back for number 2, how many people will keep reading it.
I mean, I don't know how strong this is to really get people to come back for number 2.
Yeah, I mean,
it does read really, something you could pick up in one of those indie books. And if those people are willing to stick around. But on the other hand, those are usually trades, and you buy a book and you read all the way through, right? So
I see it selling well to the casual crowd. I see the Wednesday guys not being interested, and just not that. It's just not their material, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing against the creators or them, or the book or the readers. It's just not a book that I don't see.
I just didn't like
out.
the hoopla behind all of it.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when because half the country's racist and the other half wants people to not be racist. I don't know. It's just like, the hoopla, all the crap behind it is like just whatever. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it.
Was this something that was ran on Fox News?
Probably. Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, I'm glad it sold well, and Marvel did sell out. They sell out of everything, but that's good to hear. And I know it sold very well on Comixology. Comixology, it was like their number 2 book of the week, which it was not our number 2 book of the week. Let's put it that way. So,
well, maybe it would have if you got more copies.
Maybe.
No,
I'm not sure.
I think if you got more copies, it necessarily wouldn't have sold more. You probably would have sold a little more if you have more copies, but I don't think it would have sold.
You don't think it would have sold more, but you think it would have sold more?
It would have sold more, but not.
It would have sold more, but it would have sold more copies.
Yeah. I mean,
Ryan knows what I was talking about.
I bumped my order on number 2 slightly, and I'll bump it a little bit on number 3. And I'm willing to take an issue or two, kind of going back to what we were talking before, because it did sell better than expected, and so I'm very happy. I love money. So I'm very happy to go back and bump our orders, but I'm very curious to see what this book is going to do long term. This could. I mean, my initial prediction is,
6 issues and no one
will care about. No one will care by the end of the first arc. She'll be in. The book will be canceled by 18. She'll be in the Runaways miniseries that comes out in 4 years, and then she'll get killed off in a Marvel event in a decade. I mean, that's the way this happens, right? This is comic books.
I mean, this is almost a repeat of Arvania,
totally.
The Hispanic Spider Girl.
Yeah.
I mean,
which Marvel threw a ton behind, and it was a terrible character and a terrible book. So,
and it's a very, very similar another take at it.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Well, I guess my only curiosity is just because that increase in issue 1 kind of thing. I'm curious to see what the trade paperbacks will do for you. Actually,
again, I'm curious to see
if it becomes the next Hawkeye. That's
Hawkeye's got its own.
I have a bone to pick about Marvel on that stuff. Just because Hawkeye worked with Magic with that style.
Yeah.
I'm not happy seeing Moon Knight in that style and everything else they're trying to push in that style. Jesus Christ!
I kind of dig like white suit, like white suit. I mean, like suit, like suit tie and jacket suit.
And with my luck, this is going to be like a hit, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, it's Warren Ellis, so he'll be gone after the first arc. But I'm curious because I think people are going to see the cover that doesn't actually show Moon Knight.
Oh, yeah,
it's just his face.
Yeah.
And I think people are going to buy it and be like, what the hell is this? I'll be real curious if Moon Knight works. But I mean, they're definitely going for that Tumblr hipster crowd with these books.
They totally are.
Which is cool if people buy them, but the problem with Tumblr and hipster... The problem with the Tumblr and hipster people, they don't have money. They don't buy things. They don't buy comic books.
They don't leave their houses.
Well, that's not that.
They do.
It's
they
not
like
that.
To hang at a coffee house.
It's not that. It's just they're unemployed teenagers and early 20-year-old kids living at their house. So
it's like those people at Safeway at the Starbucks.
I would love
Wi-Fi.
I would love to see these books have a very long, very successful career.
I mean, Hawkeye is doing a good job in sticking around.
Our numbers have plummeted on that book, but the book is off the rails right now. It's so late. They shipped issue 16 before 15. They changed all the artists on all the upcoming issues. The book is kill it. It's done. It's over. But it'll.
They might as well just finish it off then.
Right. It'll be over.
Good hoorah to finish it.
Yeah, it'll be over before the end of the year because they've killed the momentum on it.
But I flipped through the Marvel previews. I'm like, Alred is on Silver Surfer, and you got some stylish, another artist on another book. I'm like, what's happening? It's like artists take over with your styles, which actually is a good thing.
I'm uber excited about Allred on Surfer. I think his style completely works for that book.
It actually kind of fits it. Yeah, I'm not talking trash about it. I mean, just, my personal taste of 90s buff dudes and hot chicks is kind of gone away into really, really stylish artists, which is, I'm a big Scotty Young fan, and I love when Scotty Young whenever he did a book, I'm all over it. It just feels like everybody's trying to do their own version of their style, which is actually really cool. Good for them. It's just, I miss the traditional comic book look.
You want your books to have their own style. Like, Green Arrow found a good style with what it's working with Jeff Lemire.
Oh, that last issue was so good.
Yeah.
And Ryan Stegman is like one of those. He's like kind of traditional, but has his own look, right? So I really like that.
It's like the same thing with like the mix between like Brubaker and Epting, right? You have like Johns and Rice and Monkey. It's like they're good, but you don't have to copy that for every single book. You know, they each one has their own kind of style, their own kind of flow.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel still has, obviously, predominantly superheroic type artists. So the Hawkeyes and Miss Marvels, these are kind of the outlier books, Daredevil. But that's where it should be. You know, I don't necessarily want to see really kind of alt indie stylized art on an Avengers title. I want big blow up action.
How many times has Moon Knight failed for Marvel?
This is like the 8th or 9th time. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying Moon Knight is going to do great for him. I just love the old school Mark Spector Moon Knight stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So in terms of sort of these kind of books, I'm just going to say All-Star Western Jonah Hex. Is
exactly
unbelievably long run at this point and awesome and.
Yeah, I mean, there's always been some of these. Runaways was never traditional. Hawkeye obviously has gone for a year now and has been fairly untraditional. Daredevil,
I love Runaways.
Daredevil again.
I love Runaways. Yeah.
So these books have always existed.
Yep.
You guys, Toby, you want to talk Justice League War or Trapped in Time real quick, and then maybe a question or two. Wrap up.
Sure.
All right.
Do it.
Well, as we all know, the Justice League War, based on Geoff Johns and Jim Lee's New 52 GLA book, came out. I actually don't quite remember the single issues as closely, but some people have told me they miss Aquaman in the movie.
Yeah.
Who got replaced by Shazam, Captain Marvel, or Shazam, how he's called now. At first I was like, oh man, that's silly, who makes these decisions to just replace characters? But after watching it, I kind of dug the Shazam and Cyborg kind of friendship they developed over the course of the movie. So I thought that was kind of cool. Hal was, just kind of like the way he was in the book. Batman is Batman. Wonder Woman was funny. Flash, is Flash. Other than that, it's what it was. It was a giant alien invasion that heroes teamed up and beat Darkseid, and that was kind of it. Not a whole lot to it, story-wise. Yeah.
Well, it was a big action piece, basically.
Yeah.
And I
liked
it.
That's what the first arc was in Justice
exactly.
League.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I'm a huge fan of the Bruce Timm
Justice League,
Paul Dini, the Justice League Unlimited stuff. I loved that when the first time Superman and Batman met in World's Finest. I thought that was just solid. I mean, the way when Batman stopped Clark by calling out his name, it was kind of cool, but it didn't have the same effect that it did in World's Finest, I think. I'm still hoping that one day maybe we could just get Justice League Unlimited back, and they just do some of these storylines in their style all season long. Why couldn't the first DC direct movie was the Death of Superman? Why couldn't have that been a Justice League Unlimited season? He dies at the beginning, it goes through the whole season. They could have come back with the 4 Supermans and all of that stuff. I think that would have fit right into Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah, that would have been amazing.
I think that would have been awesome, right? They could have done Crisis, the Identity Crisis on Justice League Unlimited. Plenty of things you could have done. Like I said, I love these movies. I'll watch them. I'll keep watching. I'm really looking forward to Batman and Son. I enjoyed the last couple quite a bit. Like Superman vs. Elite is one of my favorites. Forgot what else. Oh, Flashpoint was really good. So this one was one of mine. It's cool, but there's some
before the story didn't seem to be there.
But it wasn't in the books either, though. I mean, I honestly didn't like the book either. So it's the same problem I have with the book. So I'm not really picking on the cartoon version of it. It's just it is what it is, right? It's a giant team up of alien invasion, and that's what we got. So,
well, I guess the book and the movie, in a sense, they don't sort of wrap the story around. It's not a big, huge, thought-provoking story because it's more about the character interactions between all these sort of big personalities all getting together and figuring out how they fit. And that was where a lot of the drama and stuff come in from.
Yeah.
The fact that they're not all necessarily just immediately getting along or that kind of thing. And for what it is, I think it's fine.
It's not bad.
We are getting into what I would call the post-Bruce Timm era of animated stuff, and I get the impression that the new person in charge sort of did Flashpoint as sort of the last hurrah to the Bruce Timm era. And now they're sort of building up their own era of stuff, sort of like they seem to be very specifically staying away from any of the voice cast that Bruce Timm used. And
yeah. I mean, and it's funny, they have... I didn't even realize that happened in Flashpoint, the after-credit scene. They were doing the Marvel after-credit scene. So Aquaman not being in this kind of sets it up maybe for something else after the credits. So,
but there is talk that the one after how they're going to do these movies in the future is they're going to be Justice League movies, but they're going to be based around kind of a character. So the next one is going to be an Aquaman one, and then apparently a Wonder Woman one after that. But they are going to be called Justice League. Atlantis Attacks or whatever was what was the
they are
one.
Setting up for the Atlantis storyline,
right? Throne of Atlantis.
Yeah, they are kind of setting up for that, which is interesting. So, I mean, they might be, Batman's. So I feel like it's the Justice League will continue, and while in between we get like the Batman and Sons and
it's going to be 3 a year now as well, not 2. So they bumped up their release to 3 a year.
Cool.
So we're going to get Justice League Batman, Justice League Superman, Justice League Batman, Justice League Superman.
Yeah.
Well,
probably
it
the release
sounds
schedule.
like the Batmans may still be standalone, at least right now, because like the Batman and Son is not Justice League at all.
No, right. So this is the Justice League one. The next one's Batman. Then we have the Aquaman one, which is Justice League.
Well, the one after that, I believe, is another Batman one.
Is it really?
They're supposed to be doing one
the
around
Gotham.
the Arkham.
Yeah, or the Arkham stuff.
Yeah.
That may be different. That could be its own thing.
Maybe, but it's still being produced by the same people.
Maybe they'll do one Justice League, one Batman, one other.
Yeah.
Like media tie-in or something big or something different.
Yeah. And then there's also potential more stealth releases like Trapped in Time.
Oh, I was going to ask about Trapped in Time, so I picked it up the other day. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, though. But I was worried this was going to be some just dreadful thing. But one of our good friends and customers here at the store, who was a big fan of the animated stuff, as well as the Legion of Superheroes, watched it and he said he really enjoyed it. So how was it? I need to watch it still.
Let's just say it had more plot than War had, which surprised me. I really did. I mean, it started off, it was kind of silly, and I'm like, okay, I see where this is going, and then it took like a left wing. I was like, no, that's not what is going on at all. I was like, well, what? And it jumped into the future. You had a couple Legion members in there. I was like, what?
Well, I saw I know Time Trapper's in it, and I know Dawnstar and is it Karate Kid. Yeah, I'm like, oh, my Legion.
But it came in such a left wing. I was like, what? They travel back in time. Things happen. They go back in the future. I was like, what? I was telling Charlie while we were watching. I was like, for a kid show, I mean, this is aimed for like, a younger crowd. I'm like, I'm really surprised at how much storyline is going on here.
Well, I just love the fact that this movie is we're going to combine essentially the Justice League kind of thing with the Super Friends kind of thing and mesh it together. So sort of like the Toyman design is like right out of Super Friends, the like marionette look with the sort of wacky rocket ship kind of like the exact kind of thing you would see from like the old Super Friends stuff. But then they brought back Diedrich Bader to do the voice of Batman. He did the Brave and the Bold stuff. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm hoping for more stealth releases like this just because I feel like...
do we think this was like a pilot that basically they just went, just dump it out?
I don't think it was not to say that it's entirely impossible.
But why not? I mean, what's the thought process behind we're going to make something and then not advertise
I think Target goes, we want a movie that we can sell, and they're like, okay, here it is.
See, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I saw this as a big experiment.
Or was the lack of advertisement to see if people would actually...
see if they pay attention?
To see if social media can get word out more than
that's
the standard
what I think.
advertising.
I think it's basically... in general, because literally nobody knew anything about this till the Target ad got leaked for the next week.
Well, the funny thing is,
and then all of a sudden, all these people started making statements to World's Finest website because all these sites started going to people going like, "What the hell is this?"
I want to know how many adults watch it. If they just advertise, it's going to be a kit release for Justice League. probably no audience would have picked it out. Now that it stealthed it, I was like, all these grown-ups like, what the fuck is this? I gotta watch this.
I mean, think about how much you save on advertising when you're making it this kind of this huge kind of crap.
Well,
this is coming out.
But you also have to realize an ad will reach millions and millions of people. Internet stealth, whatever garbage, it'll reach
honestly, I will
people.
Tell you this.
You will sell more per eyeball that hits this sort of social media thing, but you're just not opening yourself up to the masses. I'm hoping it's successful.
Doing a Target exclusive already is kind of
it's limited.
Targeted.
It's limited. Yeah,
I kind of saw this as they always have these toy lines that aren't attached to any particular properties. The styles aren't attached. I kind of saw this as essentially, we need to get something out there within the style of these toys that we're selling. So you kind of have that link.
Some of the productions are kind of low quality. Some of the designs I didn't necessarily like. I mean, the animation style was a little iffy at times, but overall, it's not a bad piece of product, though. No, I mean, I seriously expect a lot less, especially the first 5 minutes when Lex Luthor's coming here. I'm taking over the world. I'm like, fudge, this is going to be this. But then the whole, time travel, I'm like, what's happening? And I was like, it's not bad.
Well, I mean, I knew about War coming out because I saw some ads in comics and stuff. But this is the first I've heard of this.
Yeah,
because I'm not plugged in all the time. So
I was just going to say that this is. Because it's only available at Target, I could see them maybe running it in some of the kids more centric sort of titles. Like I haven't read the Scribblenauts, and I wouldn't been surprised to see an ad in there. But they're not going to put an ad for this. And
Now I want to add in that Karate Kid was played by Rufio.
Oh,
from,
nice.
Hook and Avatar,
nice.
Playing Prince Zuko, and in Korra he's also a character too. So. Yeah, I recognize his voice right away. I was like, it's Rufio! Charlie, what? I think that's Prince Zuko. I'm like, that's Rufio!
Hell yeah, Hook. I love that movie.
Yeah.
All right, a couple questions?
The questions that we got, we answered most of them just in our general talks about stuff.
We don't have anything.
So, there's a couple. Well, there's a couple. There's one Stefano about the comic market thing when I was talking about Umbral. We had questions about Gotham. We had questions about some of those stuff. So we covered them all. We got to wrap up anyway, so time to go. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll be back next week for another episode. You can go listen to this episode and all our previous episodes at geekbox.net or on comicsconspiracy.biz, which I really need to update the last few episodes. I haven't put them up there. Forums.geekbox.net. Go there and talk to us, or go join the Geekbox Facebook group. Just search Geekbox, and there should be the group that pops up for the Geekbox. So we're on there. We're always talking about comics and movies and crap. What else we got? Contact form. Is on the main page, or you can send an email to The Comic Conspiracy, no S, The Comic, no S there, Conspiracy. There's an S in Conspiracy. At geekbox.net. Or, just that contact form works as well. A bunch of us do random other crap. Brock's got conspiratorBrock.com. Omar's got comicsanddekind.com. He'll probably be back next week. Charlie's got the I almost said the Infinity Long Box.
He's got some more stuff
He's got the Infinite Long Box, as well as...
And Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension has officially gone live.
So that's Wanders, Wanders?
No. Wanderers.
Wanderers.
Yes.
Okay, so Wanderers.
Wandererio.
So
but you
not Wonder like WonderCon or Wonder Woman. Wander.
Wander over yonder.
Yeah, wander beyond yonder.
Not all those that
wander the beyonder.
No. Wander
any
beyond
event,
yonder.
You can find it at wanderinforD.libsyn.com. You can find it, I believe we have a link at just wanderinfor.com. I mean, it's on iTunes.
Wanderers in 4D, right?
Not on the easy to find URL and all that. Just wanderinfor.com.
All right.
Excellent. That's your weekly Doctor Who podcast, starting with Series 1.
The first one we put up is actually on an Adventure in Space and Time, the making of movie they did for the 50th.
Okay.
Yes.
Figured we'd start on the creation and then start on the actual show.
And if you actually paid attention, to give you a big nod in the episode, they're calling the Doctor Who special the 0000 episode.
Oh, our episode here? Excellent. Fantastic. All right, that's
they
the best.
didn't actually call it that, but I made it.
It's the -1 episode.
Yes.
So
the -1 episode.
Yeah.
Yes, we blame you for the fact that we're doing this.
Excellent. Fantastic. I love that.
It's all your fault.
All right.
Well,
Yeah, Twitter, Ryan Higgins, Ryan, Brock
I have
Sager.
to add that Bizarro and Solomon Grundy were quite funny in Trapped in Time.
Oh, sweet.
Actually, they actually did a good job with those two characters.
Grundy want pants, too. Omar is Comics Antikine. Toby is Toby XI. Charlie's Insanity and Chaos. Bryce, hopefully he'll be back in a week or two. Larson Bryce, if you want to follow him and tell him your favorite top 7 X-Men books of the quarter.
God, would you just let that die?
Did I say I'm Ryan Higgins, Ryan? Maybe.
Yes.
I'm Ryan Higgins, Ryan. Not like
we also have
this is my Twitter name,
the
not my
comic
real name.
book club selection is
Yes.
coming up in 2 weeks.
Yes, and it is the first 7 issues of Gotham City Sirens. This is Omar's pick. The trade paperback is called
Union,
if you can have it or find the trade paperback for a reasonable price. If not, go on Comixology, which is digital.comicsconspiracy.biz. Go on there and pick it up there.
First 7 issues
First
are
7 issues.
$13.93.
Yeah, it's
it's
cute.
not a graphic novel, but you can buy them. They have this series that you can buy on Comixology. So
Yeah, it's good stuff. So go get that.
we do apologize for the not in print
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
that's all good. All right, we'll catch everyone next week.